After dark on March 19th, 2001, Anita, her husband, and her teenage daughter Sheila were passengers in a car, which was driving uphill on Little Creek Road towards Little Creek. Anita was sitting in the front passenger seat. She noticed the van parked facing downhill in a dirt area on the opposite side of the two-lane road. According to Anita, 3 or 4 Latino men stood outside by the side of a van facing Little Creek Road. Anita said one of the men appeared to be around 40 years old, and they looked like they were all drinking. One of the men was wearing a white t-shirt. Approximately 15 minutes later, Anita and Sheila traveled in the area where they had seen the van. Sheila spotted a white shoe. Anita's husband, who was driving, pulled over and shined the car's headlights, which they seen a dead body. Anita and Sheila both recognized the victim as one of the people they had seen standing by the van in the same area they were 15 minutes earlier. Anita told the police she thought the victim had been standing next to the man wearing the white t-shirt. The victim was a 15-year-old named Ricardo. Ricardo had been shot 7 times, including twice in the back of the head. Crime scene personnel found a pair of glasses, a plastic Pepsi bottle, and a cigarette butt, and multiple 9mm shell casings, and 1 live round near Ricardo's body. No fingerprints were found at the scene. Crime scene personnel also noted in photographs, tire tracks, and shoe prints near the body. The presence of shell casings and blood pooling underneath the body suggested that Ricardo had been shot at the scene. Shortly after midnight on March 20th, 2001, a woman named Tamara was returning to a tractor trailer to a trucking yard where she worked at on Willow Avenue in Rialto. As she drove up to the yard's driveway, her headlights revealed a dead body. Tamara then called the police. The body was to an 18-year-old named Jason. Jason had been shot once in the back of the head at close range. There were no bullet casings or signs of struggle at the scene, which indicated to investigators that Jason had been killed somewhere else, then moved to where he was found. Around 6:40 a.m. on March 21st, 2001, a woman named Brenda was driving her kids to school, where she noticed a body on the side of the road. The body was near the location where Anita, her husband, and her daughter Sheila had found Ricardo's body. Brenda then called 911. The dead body was to a 17-year-old named Alexander. Alexander had been shot 5 times, including twice in the head, and crime scene personnel found 9mm casings at the scene, and also a pool of blood. Police investigations revealed that all 3 victims were friends of a 17-year-old named Andrew. Andrew was a member of a gang called Monte Flores. Andrew and his friends regularly spent time at an apartment on Linden Avenue in Rialto. The apartment was rented by Andrew's aunt Carmen and her husband Abraham. Carmen and Abraham were also members of the Monte Flores gang. Alfred was also a member of the Monte Flores gang. He had been jumped into the gang at a young age, and he was known on the streets as Wizard. He was friends with Carmen and Abraham, and starting in early 2001, he frequently stayed at their house. According to Andrew, Carmen, and Abraham, Wizard sought to recruit new members to the Monte Flores gang, including Andrew and his friends. Abraham told Wizard he wanted no part in any recruitment effort, and Carmen told Wizard that Andrew and his friends were not gang member types. Wizard recruited Andrew to join the gang, which he did. Andrew was given a nickname and started taking orders from Wizard. Ricardo, Jason, and Alexander were not members of the Monte Flores gang. Jason and Alexander had no interest in joining the gang. Ricardo then agreed to join the gang, but he did not attend his jumping in ceremony. According to Andrew, this disappointed Wizard. On the evening of March 19th, 2001, Wizard, Andrew, Jason, Ricardo, Alexander, and another friend named Eric were at Carmen's apartment. At some point in the night, Wizard said they should take a ride to Little Creek in Carmen's van. Privately, Wizard told Andrew to put a gun in the van. Wizard handed Andrew a rifle wrapped in a towel. Andrew put it in the back of the van. With Carmen as the driver, Wizard, Andrew, Jason, and Ricardo entered the van. Eric and Alexander left separately. With the 4 boys in the van, Carmen drove to Imperium, where she purchased beer. Carmen then drove up to Little Creek Road before pulling over in a dirt area. Everyone except Carmen got out and began drinking beer by the back of the van. Andrew and Jason talked while Ricardo and Wizard had a separate conversation. Andrew heard Wizard say to Ricardo, "Hey, don't you trust me?" Ricardo put his arm around Wizard, and Wizard suddenly shot Ricardo in the stomach, and he continued to shoot Ricardo until he fell. Wizard and Andrew and Jason returned to the van, and Carmen started driving away. Carmen later testified that Wizard was holding what it looked like was a pistol while he returned to the van. Carmen then dropped off Wizard and Jason near her apartment, then drove Andrew home. Wizard and Jason were at Carmen's apartment when she returned. Jason then left the apartment, and Wizard followed, and Wizard left with Carmen's car. Wizard returned about an hour later. He told Carmen that he had gotten into an argument. He said somebody broke the window of her van on the front passenger side. Carmen and Andrew both saw the window was damaged, and Andrew described the damage as a bullet hole. Wizard followed Carmen around throughout the next day. She said he threatened to kill her family. She later testified that she thought Wizard would hurt her or her family if she called the police. Around 11 p.m. that night, Wizard again borrowed Carmen's van. He left for about an hour. Alexander was later found the next morning. His body was found near where Ricardo was. Alexander was last seen by his sister at their house around 11 p.m. After the police started investigating the murders, Wizard left the United States for Mexico. He was reportedly staying at one of the homes of Carmen's relatives. Detectives traveled to Mexico to find Wizard, the van, and also the murder weapon. They did not locate Wizard, but saw the van was later burned up. On a second trip to Mexico, detectives traveled with Carmen's mother, who was helping with the investigation. The detectives there met with Carmen's nephew, who said he had the murder weapon. The gun was later recovered in Mexico and matched bullets found at the scene. Wizard was later arrested trying to cross the border from Mexico into the United States. He used a false name, but agents discovered his identity by running his fingerprints. At trial, the prosecution theory was that Wizard killed 15-year-old Ricardo for refusing to join his gang. Then Wizard killed Jason because he witnessed the murder. Wizard killed Alexander to prevent him from implicating him in the murders as well. Just days before the killings, Wizard went on a crime spree, holding up at least 2 restaurants at gunpoint and shooting and injuring a handful of bystanders. Police said he was accompanied by Andrew in the crimes. Andrew was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the robberies, even though he snitched about the murders that Wizard committed. While this case was going on, Wizard was hit with another charge. In a tape played to jurors, Wizard confessed to shooting a 22-year-old man named Mark at a motel and throwing his body in the trunk of a stolen car. Prosecutors said that Wizard killed the man because he had been a customer of Wizard's mom, who was a prostitute. The police department would say that Wizard said killing is good. At trial, Wizard's defense argued that Wizard was a scapegoat and he did not shoot the 3 boys. They will also say that Abraham, Carmen, and Andrew, who all testified against Wizard, were instead to blame. The judge in Wizard's case said he had no remorse, as if he had no soul. Wizard glared at members of the audience and slouched in his chair. He offered no statements and only laughed at the demands for his execution. After the trial ended, Wizard was sentenced to death. Wizard is now 45 years old and has been in prison since 2003, which he would never get out. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.